Welcome to Faith in 5, a weekly video devotional designed to discuss practical spiritual concepts in 5 minutes or less. I'm your host, Mark Vandella. A couple of weeks ago, my mother-in-law ruined cheesecake for me forever. And by ruined cheesecake, what I really mean is she ruined every cheesecake but hers. Now, any cheesecake I will ever eat will never compare to the one that she made over the 4th of July weekend. She resurrected an old recipe that I don't know why it's not like every single day that this is a part of my life. And so she ruined every cheesecake for me. And I think some of it is maybe if I were to eat this cheesecake every single day, I think it would still be as good actually, but it might not have as much like awe or pizzazz. And I tell you that because sometimes I think in our lives, this is how we expect meaning to show up. We kind of expect to be able to order it up. Now we've got free shipping on everything, Amazon 2-day, sometimes shorter. We can order our groceries and have them delivered. Everything is so easy and right at our fingertips. If I want cheesecake, I can order some from the restaurant below my building and have it delivered 5 minutes later, and it's not going to compare. The reason it was delicious, but the reason I love this cheesecake is because I've known her for 21 years and it's the only time I've ever had it. I waited a long time. And now the analogy may fall apart at some point here, but what I want to challenge us is that in our lives, let's not look for store-bought cheesecake. Let's look for this recipe that has been developed over time and perfected, because only then is meaning experienced. We can't expect to get meaning in a cheap, store-bought, manufactured way. It has to be built and developed. And we are in the middle of our series called Come Matter Here, where we're exploring what does it mean or how do we get and live a deep, meaningful life. And it's based on Hannah Brencher's book, Come Matter Here. We're asking all these questions about how would we get that life that we all desire, and how does God kind of instruct us to do so. And Hannah tells us the story of kind of the peaks and valleys of her life. And she says that she was in one of these valleys and she had a friend kind of identify it. She said, Hannah, you're in a valley. And Hannah didn't want to hear that. She didn't want anything to do with valleys. She was like, I am a peaks person. I live on the mountaintop only. And her friend said, no, enjoy the valley. Now, admittedly, perfecting the recipe of life and going through all of the hardships and trials that we have to go through isn't the fun part of the journey. However, finding that recipe, sharing that recipe with others is where deep meaning comes from. And Hannah said essentially she had this long conversation with her friend, and then as she drove away frustrated because she didn't want a valley, she came to the conclusion, she said, you know what, I was like a Girl Scout who was given the sash, the empty sash without any badges, and I expected all of the badges to kind of come with it. She said, I wanted all of the badges without having to do any of the work. She said, really, the way life works is that some badges we achieve really easily, and one badge that might be easy for you is not easy for me. But there's always a gap between badges. And while we're in that gap, we can only think about how easy the last badge was, or that we want the last badge's success while we're pursuing the other badge. But the reality is there's always a gap in our lives as we have this ongoing growth mindset that God wants for us. He wants us to grow and change and evolve in our lives and in our faith and kind of be on this journey. That there's always a gap between badges, and that gap, as Hannah calls it, is the valley. And recently I was having a conversation with a friend of mine who was in one of these valleys as well. He'd kind of had an up and down journey with his business, and he was ready to throw in the towel. He said, I threw my hands up, I came home, I told my wife, I am done. I'm not gonna do this anymore. In the valley is not the time to throw our hands up. That's the time where we're being built, we're being shaped, we're growing and cultivating. And my friend told me that he had this moment where he had somebody else come alongside him, just like Hannah did, and recognize that, yes, you're in a valley. But in that valley, let me tell you about my experience with your business. You're good at what you do. In fact, you're the best I've ever had in my 10 years here in this city. you are right where you need to be. And God kind of says this to us over and over and over in the Bible. In fact, one of the verses I want to share with you is from Psalm 104. Psalm 104, the psalmist is writing about how beautiful God's creation is. And there's a lot of metaphors in here about how life works and how our life is meant to be lived. It says that you make springs gush forth in the valleys. They flow between the hills. We love mountains. They're majestic and beautiful. But their view is so beautiful from the valleys that we want to peak them. We want to get to the top of them. It goes on to say, the psalmist says, they give drink to every beast of the field. The wild donkeys quench their thirst. Then if you skip ahead a couple verses, it says, you cause the grass to grow for the livestock and the plants for man to cultivate. The psalmist is suggesting that it's in these valleys that we grow, that we really are refreshed and developed, and we grow into something beautiful. It's not always when we achieve the badge or at the mountaintop where real true meaning comes from. In your life and in your faith this week, look for the places where you're perfecting this recipe to your life. The trial and error, the failures, the deflated cakes, whatever it looks like in your life. In the valley is, in my life, where I end and where I really lean on God. This week in your journey, consider what the valleys have been and what you've learned, and also look for these places in your life where you grow and are truly cultivated into a more whole individual, fully leaning on God, so that you can experience the fullest meaning that God has for us in this life. Thanks for watching Faith in 5. If you like what you see, please like and share. If you're interested in making a donation to our ministry, please click the link below.